embarrassing starting pitching, mental mistakes in the outfield from a star player, and reprehensible managing. We have a packed show tonight.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cubs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Sam Olbert. I'm a lifelong fan taking my passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Cubs your first listen today. And the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like the video, and give us a comment below. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com/LockedOnMLB for 50% off your first year. Whoa, boy. We got a solo show for you. It's been a while. I haven't had to get into this mode. I haven't had to get into this mood really all season long. And I've enjoyed it. I know some people like this. Some people don't. I don't. I don't like being like this. I don't like being this guy. But it calls to be this guy tonight. We're going to get to some Porter Hodge updates, Ben Brown going down to AAA, some news and notes. If you're watching on YouTube for the plan for today's show, I put embarrassing, mortifying, and news and notes because there's just a lot to discuss. I'm going to discuss the Dansby Swanson batting fifth, which to me is the thing that is most irritating from this game. That's coming up. But we start with just another really bad loss for the Cubs, and it is now time, I believe, to start getting very concerned about this team. Maybe I don't need to put the word very in there, but this is just the type of loss that you really start to look around. And it starts with Jameson Taillon. We talked about how this might be, and I actually thought about it after the show. It was the wrong take because he had some important starts down the stretch in 2023, but we joked a little bit and talked about how this could be the biggest start of Jamo's Cub career. In hindsight, probably wasn't. It's too early for that. But how did he come out after what was batting practice in his last start against the Brewers? 4 innings, 8 hits, 8 runs. They were all earned. 3 more home runs, most of those home runs, most of those hits coming 0-2, 1-2 in the count, where he just threw hanging breaking ball after hanging breaking ball after hanging breaking ball. And I'm usually not the guy, like when a guy struggles, for example, like what Ian Happ did last night when he grounded into a double play, that's really, really irritating and frustrating, but that's part of baseball. And guys are going to do that, and it makes you want to pull your hair out, but it's part of the game. It's why it's such a hard game. You talk about it, you move on, but you don't criticize. You don't criticize it more than it needs to be. You address it, you get really upset like I did, and you move on. It's normal baseball struggles. This is a step up for me because it's just, you're not learning from your mistakes. You're not adjusting. You're not making any effort. And Jameson Taillon, by all accounts, seems like one of the nicest dudes out there. Super great guy from everything I've heard. So I'm not criticizing that part of it. It's just, how can you make that mistake over and over and over again? I mean, I know when he's right, he attacks the zone, but to give up that many home runs, over-attacking, making mistake after mistake, it's really mind-boggling to watch. And, I gave Jamo a lot of credit just 2 weeks ago when he was pitching to the conditions. But like I said in that show, we knew the regression was coming, just like it was with Carson Kelly. You're not going to come out every single night and go, all right, well, Jamo pitched good today, but it was because of the conditions. The regression's coming. You got to give guys their credit when they deserve it, and you got to get after them when they deserve it as well. And Jameson Taillon is really making it hard to accept his good outings for anything more than a strike thrower taking advantage of really, really good conditions to pitch, because these last 2 outings against the 2 teams that are, and I'm putting air quotes, chasing you, because it doesn't feel like they're going to be chasing you for long, is disastrous. And he's making a lot of money, $18 million a year. And I know, well, what does that matter? It's just, you get paid a lot of money to do a job. Just like I get, I don't get paid $18 million, but, I get paid to show up to work tomorrow. When my alarm goes off tomorrow, I'm going to be in a really bad mood. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do what I need to do. And if I make mistakes over and over and over again, I'm going to be held accountable. That's just how it goes. He's a professional, and his performance tonight was nothing short of a disaster. It was a disaster. The Cubs offense scored 7 runs. Seiya Suzuki was tremendous. 3-run home run and 2 more bullets down the third base line. Kyle Tucker, King Tuck, who probably won't be extended by this team, or if he is, man, would that be a nice piece of news if Jed wants to drop that tomorrow, because we need it. He was outstanding today. His at-bats were excellent. Nico Horner, we'll talk about him and his spot in the batting order. He was excellent. Cubs scored 7 runs, could have scored some more, but Jameson Taillon's bullpen was great. This was a game that the Cubs should have won, and the biggest reason they didn't win it is because Jameson Taillon did not give them a chance to win. He was brutal on Tuesday night. In addition to JMO, crow-armstrong had a play that just could never happen at this level. I'm not going to harp on it too much, and the reason why is because I truly believe, and I don't care about wins above replacement, whatever that says. That's not for me. I just, with my own eyes, without crow-armstrong, this team is essentially the exact same team as it's always been. And so he's been the difference, or at least the biggest difference from last year to this year. So I'm not going to get on him too much because I think he holds himself accountable and gets on himself enough. But he forgot how many outs there were in center field. And there was a man on second, 2 outs, and he scored on a fly ball to center field on a sac fly. And the Cubs ended up losing the game by a run. And that just can't happen. And those things start to happen when you're struggling, And I'm sure hopefully Craig talked to him about it. If it happens again, then you probably got to take action. But it was a really bad play. And then to compound that really bad play, Cubs had a real good rally going. Runners on the corners, 1 out in the 7th, down a run. Pete at the plate, left on left. He bunted the ball. It's one of those plays where if it works, it's a great play. If it doesn't, it's terrible. But it was a really bad bunt. He bunted it right back to the mound. And Kyle Tucker made the right play. He didn't have a read. He couldn't score. And, the 5-hitter came up after that. And that was the inning. So rough day for Pete, no question. I love that he had a really good at-bat in the 9th. But to me, when you look back at this pitching staff has regressed to the mean as fast as anything I've seen. That performance from Taillon, compounded with that performance from Ben Brown yesterday, Colin Ray the day before, it's hard to take. And we know Jed needs to make moves. Unfortunately, Cubs are dropping ground really, really fast. I mean, I think they had a 6.5 game lead a week ago at this time, because that was the game that beat the Brewers. They're up 6.5 games. And in 7 days, they've dropped 4 games in the standings. And now we're just have a 2.5 game lead. And a lot of it is, most of it is because they're not competing with their pitchers. We know offensively, we talked about it. The Cubs offense has been okay for a while here against righties. It's the lefties that really, really bother you. But the pitching right now is the headline. We'll have plenty of shows talking about how to get it fixed. If I were Jed, I think he needs to get on the phone right now because it's a complete, it's a complete free fall in this series against, by the way, with all due respect, a completely mediocre Cardinals lineup. They don't slug that much. They're not that good of an offense. Their starting pitchers in this series, the Chicago Cubs, Ben Brown and Jameson Taillon, 9 innings, 17 hits, 16 earned runs, and 7 home runs. 6 of those 7 coming to left-handed hitters. Oh, my goodness gracious. The hope is Matthew Boyd on the mound, Shota, maybe you can neutralize the lefties a little bit and get back on track. But it is pretty crazy. The stat that I just told you isn't the most frustrating part for me individually from Tuesday's game. I'm going to tell you my most frustrating part coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. The most surprising thing I noticed when I started using Monarch Money was how much I was spending on food delivery services, dining out, takeout, and how much I could save by just cutting that out. It's made a huge difference for me, my finances, and even my financial future. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, and for what feels like maybe the 30th consecutive game, Dansby Swanson is batting fifth for the Chicago Cubs. And Craig Counsell has said it a lot. I'm paraphrasing here. He didn't use these exact words, but he just doesn't think batting order is that big of a deal, like I do or other people do. And I don't understand it. Dansby Swanson is hitting 145 this season with runners in scoring position. David Ross made a lot of mistakes as the manager of the Cubs. And, one of his biggest mistakes, I just thought hitting Nico Hoerner leadoff was just, it was infuriating to me because I wanted Nico Hoerner to have opportunities with runners in scoring position. That's what his skill set is. He's the best hitter on the team with runners in scoring position. Exactly what I talked about yesterday with Ian Happ. His ability to put bat on ball is huge in contact situations. Dansby Swanson is a 7, 8, or 9 hitter on a good team that runs into some home runs every now and then, but is not a good pure hitter. And the argument of, well, you want slug in the 5-hole. You have Kyle Tucker, Seiya Suzuki, Pete Crow-Armstrong hitting in front of that position. There's going to be guys on base running around the bases. Get a guy that just has an approach there. Even if you want to put Michael Busch there, I know the reason why Counsell doesn't put Busch there is he doesn't want Busch hitting behind Pete Crow-Armstrong because late in the games, that's going to force lefties to come in and it's going to really neutralize Pete and therefore neutralize Michael Busch even more when lefties come up. If you really don't want Nico there, then put Pete lead off and put Ian there, or put Ian 4 and put Pete 5 then, because Ian's done a nice job overall from the right side. It's just you have to change it up because it was a huge part of the game today. 7th inning, 2nd and 3rd, 2 outs, down a run. You just need a base hit. Swanson pops out to foul territory. It was a great catch by Burleson. To Dansby's credit, and this isn't a knock on Dansby. That's just not who he is. You're asking him to do something he's not good at. And I actually think in that situation, Dansby tried to go to right field. I really do. Like he was trying. It's not what he's good at. He's good at ambushing some fastballs, the bottom of the order, and hitting some home runs. And then in the 9th inning, he came up, same situation. 2nd and 3rd, 2 outs. He almost hit the ball so softly, it worked. It was an incredible play by Arenado. Give him credit. But the process, the thought process makes absolutely no sense to me because early in the year, when this team, we talked about urgency, Counsell moved Dansby down to the 8-hole, and it worked amazing. Why is he force-feeding Dansby to hit 5 and hit 4 versus lefties? It makes no sense. I gotta feel like I'm missing something. I don't care that Nico Hoerner only has 1 home run. His skill set, the batting average there, plays more than Dansby Swanson's skill set. And, I really think it's one of the more mind-boggling managerial decisions I've seen in a Cub uniform. It just, batting order, you're going to have gripes with batting order. You're not going to love it. But this one, to continue hitting this guy 5th with his skill set, he's striking out over a third of the time. He's hitting, under 200 the last month of the season. It's just, and maybe it's just my overall frustration with baseball, because all the guys, the guys even that are smart, way smarter than me, because Craig Counsell absolutely is far, far smarter than me. Even these guys, they just look at OPS, they look at slug. Like, who cares what the WRC plus says? Who cares what the OPS says? In big spots, I want a guy that I feel like can get a big hit. And I would understand if your team was void of slug, but you got slug. PCA's got 20-plus homers. Seiya got 20-plus homers. Tucker's on pace for 30-plus homers. You don't need to have slug in that 5-hole. Diversify, optimize, maximize, and balance your lineup. I'm tired of watching Nico Horner bat with nobody on base. He came up against Phil Maton, same guy that got out Dansby, nobody on base. I literally went to Twitter and I said, he's getting a hit here. Would have been great. Would have been great to have him in a spot, where it actually mattered. Base hit through the left side. It's just, I always have an issue when the process doesn't make sense. When Craig ran out Genesis Cabrera there, that process made sense to me. He doesn't want to burn relievers. That's the guy that he has. It is what it is. To continue hitting this guy fifth is just, in my opinion, some of the most managerial malpractice I've seen, not from just Craig Counsell, but from any Cub manager. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I'm looking at the stats right now coming in it today. 222 with a 247 on base percentage are his numbers in June. 222, 247. And here's Nico Horner's coming into today, by the way. And he had a huge day today. Nico's batting 274. I mean, those hits, and people say, well, that's just batting average. But that's the stat that matters. That's the stat that matters in that specific spot. It doesn't matter as much holistically, but in that spot, second and third, 2 outs, what's a walk going to do you anyway? I mean, it's great. You pass the baton, but a base hit is a 2-run homer there. And I just think, with where the Cubs are at right now, your manager should be making things easier for you and helping you. And I think I've been really fair to Craig a lot most of this year, and he's hurting the Cubs right now. And starting on Wednesday night in St. Louis, where there was about 674 people watching the game, and about 420 of them are Cubs fans. This Cardinal team, their fans don't even care about this team, and they're 2.5 games behind the Cubs. The lineup card needs to change. He's got to get Dansby Swanson out of there. He's got to. Cubs tomorrow with a. I don't believe in must wins when you're in first place in June. I don't believe in that. I'm not going to go that far, but it's definitely a really important game tomorrow. It'll be Matthew Boyd versus Eric Fetty. For the first time in this series, the spread actually makes sense to me. So that's good news. Cubs were like minus 115 both games, and it didn't add up. It just felt very trappy. I talked about that. But now they're up to minus 135 with Boyd on the mound. And I think it's very simple why Vegas didn't feel confident that Ben Brown and Jameson Taillon could get out these left-handed bats with St. Louis. They were right. Matthew Boyd should be able to neutralize them a bit, and hopefully this offense could continue to do damage against righties. They did enough to win on Tuesday night, but Jameson Taillon and company made sure that did not happen. Coming up next, it was a very big news day before the game. We're going to get into that and talk more Cubs coming up next. This episode is brought to you by Rougiette. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. Head to rougiette.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnMLB and use promo code LockedOnMLB for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. We are back here on Locked On Cubs, where before the disaster in St. Louis on Tuesday night, the Cubs made the decision that we all knew that was coming. They sent Ben Brown down to AAA, and they called up Porter Hodge. We'll talk about Brown in a second. Very odd interview from Counsell with Porter Hodge. Before the game, Taylor McGregor said that Hodge isn't quite 100% yet. And so because of that, they're going to, try and ease him back in. I listened to that interview a little differently. I don't think that Hodge isn't 100%. I just think he's not back into form. I don't think he's hurt or they wouldn't call him back up. I hope. But his last outing in Iowa, he gave up 6 runs in a third of an inning. It didn't go well. And Counsell really spoke strongly about Porter Hodge. I'm not going to go into exact quotes, but to paraphrase, a lot of things that we've talked about on this show with Porter, to be honest. He needs to throw more strikes. And if he's going to walk that many guys, he has to strike out more guys because, in this league, it's very simple. If you walk a lot of guys and you're not getting a ton of strikeouts, you got no chance because bounces are going to happen. Guys are going to get broken bat hits. They're going to get bloop hits. And if you constantly have traffic on the bases, you're in trouble. So if you are going to walk a lot of guys, but the ball's not in play a lot, you're striking out a lot of guys, that could work. If you're not striking out a lot of guys, you got to limit the walks. And it just seemed like Counsell was very, I don't want to say stern, but it just sounded like Porter Hodge has a ways to go. There were some times this year where I thought he looked like the dominant guy that he was last year, and then there were some times that he didn't. And now this injury and maybe this setback start outing in Iowa, has forced the Cubs to where Counsell said he's going to be eased back in. He's going to be in low leverage here for a bit. So you'll see Porter Hodge when the Cubs are trailing, or maybe in the 5th or 6th inning, or something along those lines. And I think that's a pretty big story because this is a guy that whenever I was doing the solo show a couple months ago when Palencia took over for him, the Cubs lost their closer, and now with really no blow up outing, no terrible outing at the major league level. It feels like he's been demoted a little bit. Now, Counsell did say that Porter's still a huge part of what the Cubs are trying to do, and I suspect Porter Hodge will get right. But right now, it feels like your high leverage guys who are awesome today. Pomerantz, Thielbar, Keller will pitch tomorrow, hopefully. Palencia, and then Hodge slides under there. But it could be a good opportunity and a good upgrade for this bullpen because we just saw Genesis Cabrera. We just saw Nate Pearson. So if Porter Hodge is going to play that role for a while, that's a nice upgrade, having a guy come in down a run, down 2 runs that keeps you in the game. But it'll be really interesting to keep an eye on Porter Hodge because him coming back, I thought, and the way he looked up until the trade deadline was going to determine what the Cubs do with the reliever market. And now you almost feel like they need a reliever. We know they need a starter. We know they probably need another bat. Matt Shaw is probably its own episode coming here soon. But if Porter Hodge isn't going to be a high leverage guy by the time the trade deadline rolls around, Cubs need to think about upgrading that spot as well. So pretty big story there. Ben Brown being moved down to AAA, being sent down. I think we covered it, and Counsell said all the right stuff, all the things that I agree with. I mean, he is getting better. He is growing. And when I say getting better, I don't mean results, but I just mean when you have outings like that, you face adversity, you grow from it. But this team's trying to win a division title, and they don't really have the patience, with Kyle Tucker on a 1-year deal here to wait for Ben Brown to grow and go through these growing pains anymore. They really don't. And so, he's got to go get better at AAA. And like Matt, who's been all over this Ben Brown situation, accurately said, Not only did Ben Brown get sent down, but Counsell mentioned he's going to start, but they're really going to limit his innings. They're going to watch his innings. So kind of like what Matt said yesterday, probably maybe once through the order, maybe 3-4 innings tops. And then he'll be removed. And we'll see. Maybe it'll be a really fun story. And Ben Brown, he has the stuff. Maybe he can come back and contribute for the Cubs here down the stretch because they're sure going to need it. I thought the one interesting thing with Counsell too is he didn't really talk about, the third pitch. That's a goal for Ben Brown. It's a goal, but it wasn't the reason he was sent down. He got sent down because the 2 pitches that he has weren't competitive enough. I think that's an interesting distinction to make. So just a pretty newsy day to wrap up, just going around the NL Central. Well, the Cardinals are on fire. They've beaten the Cubs back-to-back days to climb within 2.5. Milwaukee won on Tuesday night after what was a really big break for the Cubs to lose that game to the Pirates on Monday night. And the Cincinnati Reds are heating up as well. So the NL Central, from what some people, a few weeks ago on the radio were talking, hey, World Series, let's think about October. You have 3 baseball teams within 4.5 games of the Cubs, and Milwaukee 2.5 out, St. Louis 2.5 out. And, the Cubs now, I think it's safe to say for the first time this year are spiraling a little bit. I think when you look at the totality of it, I think they're 7-10 in their last 17 games. That's not as bad as it feels. But what it really has come down to is since that victory against the Brewers, loss against the Brewers game 2, lose 2 out of 3 against Seattle, and now lose 2 straight. So, that's what is that there? 1 game, 4 games, 6 games. They've lost 5 of 6, and the losses have just been bad. They've either been really, really ugly games, like blowouts, or games that you felt like they should have won. So, we talked about it on Sunday heading into Monday. Cubs are facing adversity for the first time this year. So far, 2 games in, not handling it well. And, the big $1 million question that we don't know the answer to, but we will in 2-3 weeks in a month is this just a bad stretch of the season for the Cubs that happens? Or is this more like the team that they actually are, and April and May were more of a facade? I've seen a lot of people on the radio and social media say, well, hey, the 2016 Cubs went through a really bad stretch, or hey, the Dodgers went through really bad stretches. The difference is everybody knew the true talent of those teams. You know what I mean? So it's like, like nobody blinked when the Dodgers were playing bad baseball because the true talent's obvious. The difference between this team is we don't really know what this team is. They have not proven that they can win in October. They have not proven that they can get to October. And, PCA has been a huge, huge part of it. If that continues, I think ultimately the Cubs are going to be fine because Kyle Tucker, to me, looks pretty locked in. I know some people have an issue with his performance, and maybe it's fair to say defensively, but he's just exactly what you asked for. Say has been fantastic. You're without Justin Steele. You've been without Imanaga. We'll see how Imanaga looks on Thursday. But all in all, we just don't know. So the apprehensiveness, the worry, you knew that 2016 team was going to October. Come on. I mean, they won 97 games the year before. We know the Dodgers are going to be playing in October. The Cubs, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what this team is. We're learning about them every day. We learned a lot in April that was really good. We learned some things in May. And now in June, we're learning that, there's a lot of holes here. They need to be filled and filled quickly. And it's going to play out on the field. But Tuesday night's game was up there for one of the most frustrating games of the season. Hopefully Matt and I are back on Wednesday talking about a much needed victory. Thank you so much for checking out this edition of Locked On Cubs. You give us 30 minutes. We'll give you all things Cubs with a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, smash the like button for the algorithm, and leave a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. I'm Sam Olber, and this was a very challenging, very disappointing conclusion of Locked On Cubs.